Welcome to Rockstars. I'm Jessica Clemons, and this is a breakdown of Daredevil Born Again episode 7, entitled Art for Art's Sake. In this episode, we learn too much about Muse, and Vanessa hires another goon to do her dirty work. This episode focuses more on the criminals and like the bad guys of New York. Also, everyone has a secret. Everyone's hiding something. Someone just needs to come out with it. But that doesn't stop Daredevil from putting that suit back on. So let's just get into it all. We open up on a shot of the David N. Dinkins Manhattan Memorial Building. Dinkins was a former mayor of New York, and I believe this building is where Fisk works. The field units of the office of the mayor, including the mayor's office, are located in this building. We begin with Blake, Buck, and Fisk. Fisk is wearing this Apple American flag pin that we've seen before, and I assume he just has loads of these because back in episode 4 he pinned one on Luca. Also, this is probably the best way to just open an episode.
When you look out this window, what do you see?
Starbucks.
Voters.
Firstly, these are the Three Stooges. Secondly, this conversation is part of the bigger conversation where Fisk looks out for the city. In this episode, we'll see Fisk continue to push his idea that he's acting in the city's best interest when all of us watching know Fisk's motivations and actions are more about his personal conflict with Daredevil. Daniel briefs Fisk on Angela's rescue from Muse that happened the night before, which how does he not know this yet? How does this kid know before he knows? I just feel like he's not doing his job well. He says that she lost 2,500 milliliters of blood. Apparently adults have upwards of 5,500 milliliters. And if you lose more than 40% of that milliliter of blood, you're gonna die. So Daniel might have not heard the numbers right, or maybe he's just a big dumb idiot. Fisk learns that Daredevil saved Angela from Muse's art hole.
So he's back. He's back.
This kind of mirrors the end of the last episode with Matt saying this.
I'm here. Yeah. I'm here.
So Fisk is nothing but pissed to hear it was Daredevil. And as a reminder, because sometimes it's hard to follow the ups and downs of Fisk and Matt's relationship, at the end of season 3, Fisk and Matt had an uneasy stalemate, with Matt saying that if Fisk went after Karen or Foggy, he would legally go after Vanessa for being part of the murder of the FBI agent Ray Nadeem, which is nice because Vanessa has obviously committed a ton more crimes than that one and since that one, so that was nice of him to do. When they had their little sit down in the first episode, Fisk warned Matt that there would be consequences should he start being Daredevil again. And Fisk has more power now than he did then, but it seems like Fisk isn't ready to expose Daredevil's true identity though. However, never say never. I feel like Fisk has that level of respect not to out him, but other people in his circle truly do not. During his heatedness, there's a sound that might, just might, be the sound of Fisk's hammer hitting his dad's skull when he was young. It sounds like metal hitting something. It feels like the tap of a hi-hat, but the echo bellows like they're trying to hammer something home. The puns. So now it's raining in New York. We see a bus stop ad for Winston Supreme, which was featured a lot in Jessica Jones, but it was also the liquor that Tony Stark was addicted to when he was dealing with his alcoholism in the comics. We also see the New York Bulletin at the top where Ben Urich worked in Daredevil's Netflix series. Angela's in the hospital bed and flashing back to the events of Muse grabbing her, although she was definitely unconscious for at least some of the stuff that we're seeing here, like him jabbing her to drain her blood or most of the fight with Daredevil. I want to chalk this up to maybe she wasn't entirely unconscious, just perhaps paralyzed, though we just don't know. On the other side of things, Matt showers off his wounds and he and Heather, just start to have shower sex. And this turns into a John Woo movie for a hot second with a slow motion pigeon. Heather sees a bruise on Matt's back from his fight with Muse. She confronts him later about his bruise and asks if he's doing some form of self-harm, but he deflects and says that life without Foggy and Karen feels kind of fake. But then the therapist comes out of her and she tells Matt that healing from his trauma is a process, and he kind of ends the conversation there. He did say to Angela earlier that he doesn't like therapist talk, and it's interesting, because why would you date a therapist then, Matt? Heather then pauses before saying the name Karen.
Well, they're old friends, Foggy and Karen.
So she knows or suspects that maybe something was going on between her and Matt. And I don't think Heather's the type, the time to be kind of jealous, but that strange pause was pretty long, too long to go unnoticed by me. Matt says he had a whole other life before, and he's obviously not just talking about Nelson, Murdoch, and Paige, but the thing that kind of frustrates me here is we haven't seen his relationship with Heather blossom or be explored. We don't know what Heather knows. Are they referring to his dad dying at a young age and him being an orphan, or is he insinuating that his natural life as a blind man was really hard? We just don't know what she knows, and a lot of their conversations are insinuating and just too mysterious. Then, to further strengthen my argument, Heather tells Matt she loves him, which is fine, though again, I pulled away because I just don't understand their relationship. How can you love someone you don't really know yet? Or at least to the audience, that's just as much as we can see. However, during this scene, we can hear the beat of what feels like her slowed heartbeat.
I love you, Matt.
I love you too.
The telltale sign from Daredevil that a person is not lying. However, we can't hear Matt's heartbeat, so he could be lying. I don't think he is. I think he does love her. I think this is just, gearing up to their big fallout and how sad it's going to be because he's hiding a really big secret from Heather. Cherry and Matt discusses Matt infiltrating Muse's hidey hole and saving Angela, angry because he promised not to get involved and leave this up to the police. Charlie Cox then flashes us a smile right here to let us know how much Matt kind of loves this. Cherry, however, isn't having it and walks out on him. Like Heather just did, he calls Matt out on his self-destructive behavior. Back with Fisk, he tells us that Daredevil vanished just over a year ago, referring back to when Foggy died. He just up and went and disappeared. Fisk says that Matt destroyed 10 years of his business infrastructure, and he's spinning it from the perspective that he was a hardworking man empowering blue-collar workers. Specifically, when he speaks on the business employing hardworking blue-collar people, I assume he's talking about what we saw in Netflix's Daredevil when he partnered with a lot of crime families, and Matt spent most of his time taking them down. Though I also think he's incorporating moments during the blip that we saw in Echo where Daredevil still kept taking him down in his businesses. I will say, I like that Fisk is twisting it all, saying he didn't get a fair trial and no justice. None of those who worked for him did either. And my man, you don't really deserve justice or a fair trial. Neither did Nobu or anyone else. Remember how you guys just kind of blew up the city? After his speech, Buck offers they've moved on from that now, telling Wilson he's the mayor now, though Fisk thinks he's insinuating he can do much more using his political resources. Kingpin says he brought Buck over from another life, and Buck says, I believe you said it was my ability to think asymmetrically, which means this man has no balance. He's two very different sides of the same coin. In the comics, Buck started as an agent for the United States government and was used by Fisk plenty more times to do his criminal work afterward. I assume if Buck is like his comic counterpart, Fisk is referring back to the days working within the United States government, but also being practical for criminal schemes. Back with some more New York B-roll, we see this statue. I believe this is the George Washington statue in Brooklyn. And then we're at the hospital with Angela, and Soledad is there, the wife of the late Hector Ayala. Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. April's here, and that means that all of a sudden every feed is an endless scroll of vacation photos, scenic hikes, and I guess everybody I know is into volleyball now? It's all basically rocket fuel for feelings of inadequacy and social anxiety, the exact kind of stuff that therapy can help you with, and BetterHelp makes starting therapy super easy. Anxiety often peaks in late springtime, but with BetterHelp, you can nip it in the bud. The majority of BetterHelp members seek support for anxiety, and 69% of the members report improved anxiety symptoms after just 6 weeks of therapy. Just head to betterhelp.com/newrockstars, fill out a questionnaire, and you will be matched with a therapist in as little as a couple of days. Easily switch therapists anytime at no extra cost if it's not the right fit. They carefully make sure therapists on that platform are well qualified, and their customer support team is there to help you if you have any questions. With over 7,000 reviews and a 4.5 rating on Trustpilot, BetterHelp is a platform you can trust. Let BetterHelp help you rule your anxiety so it doesn't rule you. Click the link in the description, scan the QR code, or go to betterhelp.com/newrockstars and get 10% off your first month of therapy. Angela is telling Matt about the murder basement, her words, not mine. It seems as though another detective asked her a bunch of questions when she woke up, and I assume they're the normal NYPD, but then when one cop knows, all of the cops know. So the anti-vigilante group is probably aware of it by now, before Fisk even was. They've now brought Angie Kim investigating Muse's murder cave. I will continue to name it something different every time I see it because it can't be named. Back to the breakdown. Inside the mouth of Stankness, we see a lot of Muse's portraits, a lot of self-portraits. You can see the skull in the top left, and the shading above the skull looks kind of like flames, and this weirdly looks like a kitty design or sketch of Ghost Rider. Inside, Angie finds a piece of canvas, and to them, who knows that this is a serial killer who likes painting with blood, probably thought, oh, this is a piece of his latest work. When in fact, I'm 100% sure that's his suit that chipped away during his fight. And how cool is it that Muse's suit is literally made from canvas? I think that's actually a really neat idea and a nice touch to this maniac. Angela talks about the Muses doing sketches of people's faces. It didn't seem like he had the time or she was there long enough in the episode to actually see that. Though I will note, since the show does go through reshoots, maybe, just maybe, this was something that was changed in the reshoots. Luca is now meeting with Vanessa upon his request, and Luca asks the million-dollar question for Vanessa that we also want to know: why does Fisk want to be mayor so badly? She doesn't know the answer to this, and this is what irritates her about their relationship, other than him being gone all the time. So she settled with steering the conversation back to what they're originally meeting for.
We're not earning like we were with you. Most of us aren't earning at all. Then he sends the Brit ding me for nearly $2 million.
So now I've got more of an implication for Vanessa. Luca gassing up that ego can probably lead to her splitting from Fisk, though we're now questioning whether she's gonna really actually do it. Will she take over for Fisk, or will she continue to love him and co-run their empire? Then we finally see it. Bastian is now meeting with Heather. Now, as a reminder, Bastian is obsessed with Heather because her books have given him guidance. Her newest self-help book, Live Without Fear, a guide to confronting trauma, talks about how people see us for the masks that we wear in our everyday life, to which Bastian was like, oh my god, yes, that's why I kill people. He tells Heather about a dream he's been having. It's his 8th birthday. He's at a house upstate where his family used to spend summers, so our boy comes from money. He's handed a bouquet of red balloons, very it, and there's a birthday cake, but his parents don't see him. He goes on to say no one knows he's there, which is easily linked to the character of Muse working in the shadows and going unnoticed. Heather then asks him what he thinks this means, and he mentions that his parents put a lot of pressure on him, and he suddenly gets really defensive, saying he loves his parents. Angie says she found the canvas on Muse's lair that led to Bastian, who has a history of involuntary commitments, meaning he went to a psychiatric hospital. Fisk also reads that he was expelled from Phillips Exeter, an extremely highly selective college preparatory boarding school in Exeter, New Hampshire. Mark Zuckerberg actually went there and was captain of the fencing team. And Angel also went to Exeter in the comics. It's also like 40 minutes away from Andover, Massachusetts, where the Phillips Academy is, the boarding school that Tony Stark went to. So this is for the rich kids. This is for the rich blood. I wouldn't know anything about it. We also learn he competed in Taekwondo, one of the many martial arts that Matt has mastered, so they were built for this duel. Fisk then says,
I like boxing.
this is interesting because Matt's a boxer, something he picked up from being around his dad. I wouldn't classify Kingpin though as a boxer. I mean, I guess he likes to grapple and fight a lot, but I don't think boxing is what I'd call it. Bastian says he hated the classes, but his parents wouldn't let him quit, and then Bastian killed his instructor, well, allegedly. Probably did. This would explain how he could keep pace with Daredevil overall. Bastian's story reminds us a lot of Bullseye's story, killing his little league coach, and we see how Fisk took advantage of that knowledge and used it to manipulate him. In this moment, no one acknowledges it's odd for the mayor to be this involved in an investigation. A detective briefing with the mayor basically the same day they discovered something isn't really how this kind of works in an active investigation, but you know, to each their own, I guess. Muse begins using his bloody nose to sketch out his latest doodle on Heather's notepad, and girl, I get it, this is your job, but this man's nose started bleeding and he started finger painting with it. Please, be fucking for real and get the out of there. He begins with his eyes of his own Rorschach mask when painting the face, and on the notepad, you can see it's where Heather was keeping track of her notes on him. It literally says Bastian at the top. Muse telling Heather she already knows the truth, and this is good because there are no more secrets between them, is parallel to Matt not being honest with her. She knows there's more to his late nights and bruises than he's letting on, and there's still a big secret between them. Also, this poor actor can only play a psycho. This and Wednesday, my boy's basically Norman Bates. Then he goes 1v1 with Heather, which, okay, bitch ass move. On the other side of the episode, Kristen is done with the secrets Cherry and Matt are keeping from her, another added layer of issue to the storyline. But girl, come on, at the end of the day, he's not gonna tell you anything and you're still gonna be staying at that job. Let's be real. Overall, secrets are grinding away as the theme for this episode. The anti-vigilante cops are now on the scene checking out the treasure trove of Muse merch. One has what I think is a skull at the top and says Vigilante Justice. This could refer to the Punisher. And I like the ones where he uses money. We see a dollar bill in the crown. Everyone's using gloves because this is all very gross and, you know, blood. We see sketches or markups that came before the actual murals that we saw in the other episodes. The triggered Punisher skull and the Red Bull that I assume meant to be the Wall Street bull Fisk is kissing. These are like his brainstorming sessions. Matt drops into the crime scene like a second after the task force leaves, and it all felt very cartoony, but boy did I love it. He didn't give it even like 10 seconds. He just scaled in there. He finds one sketch. It has a crown above the Punisher skull that seemingly says co-rupted. I think this is his way of showing us that the Punisher symbol is now being used in corruption, though they both may be working together. Hence the co being separated in the word corrupted. I don't think this is saying Frank Castle believes the same way or works alongside the anti-vigilante group, but I'm saying if there was a Venn diagram for the two in the center, it would say brute force and justice in their own hands. So they're not too far apart, you know. Then we see a red one, and I don't know if this is specifically Heather, but it does look like her. She has bullseyes instead of the pouring like waterfall of paint that Muse uses. So was Bullseye meant to kill her? I could see Muse taking Heather, just watching over her sadistically, knowing the plan was to release Bullseye at some point to kill her. Or this portrait could be Karen, and it's a commentary on how Bullseye was going to take her out as well. The Bullseye, I feel like, is significant regardless. It's different from his other signatures. It's not a crown, it's not a gaping mouth, and it's not the waterfall eyes. We see one clear image drawn of Heather, and with the wording "with fear" at the top. Like her book Live Without Fear, I think this is more commentary on how maybe he sees himself in Heather living in fear, but a play off the book title, which is also a play play off Daredevil's comics Man Without Fear. Then Matt uses super sensitive devil fingers to realize the paintings are of Heather, which, yes, feels a little wild, but I don't know, maybe Muse painted her facial structure perfectly, knowing Daredevil would find it and be like, oh, Heather, just, suspend disbelief. Then, very funny, we see this guy go, hey, and get clocked.
Hey!
I love this scene. I love this scene more than anything. I love that we get to see this man getting his ass kicked again like we did see in a previous episode. We see the streets of New York. There's still garbage piled up, so that dust up between Fisk and the Sanitation Workers Union must be ongoing. Powell says they use their facial recognition ID to recognize the sketches are of Heather, which, suspend disbelief, Jessica. Fisk hears his own psychiatrist is being targeted by Muse and probably thinks it's a connection to her that put her at risk, which I think is very important to note. Fisk then says this:
You are the thin, dark line protecting this city.
This is a play on the thin blue line, which is the idea that the cops are all that stand between order and chaos, and it's kind of funny to hear Fisk, a career criminal, saying this. Now that Muse put his suit back on, he got Heather tied down. He screams at Heather and writes his name on her arm in Sharpie because he's a child maniac. He ties off Heather's arm, and honestly, I don't think I can show you or even describe what we see next, but I can tell you, I did in fact hate it. And if you're like, when did Disney let stuff like this start showing? When did Disney get this disgusting and gross and bloody and gory? Reminder in Echo, she literally sews her wound shut in the series, which is crazy gross. The cops are on their way and Muse is laying out a white sheet to paint with Heather's blood, I assume, and Heather then says this:
Anybody who needs a mask is a coward.
And my girl, your relationship with Matt ain't gonna last long if this is the case. Daredevil comes crashing in through the window right when all of his various lives come crashing together. His relationship with Heather, hunting Muse, the anti-vigilante task force, his professional relationship with Cherry. Matt and Muse are going toe to toe. Now, I've never taken Taekwondo classes, but Muse is really holding his own very well. Then Matt makes his own art on the canvas with Muse's blood. Heather shoots Muse and then falls to the ground, a combo of shock, stress, and blood loss making her lose consciousness. And Matt takes off right before the task force enters, and you know later he's gonna feel so guilty about leaving Heather behind. Also, my man, if she's barely unconscious, you're straight up calling her by her name. She's gonna find out it's you. This line feels like it was added in ADR, and I wonder if she died initially, or maybe in test audiences they were just too confused if she was meant to be alive or dead. North tells Fisk that Daredevil was here, and you almost get the sense that Daredevil is just haunting Fisk this whole episode. Then Fisk confirms this with North, and he does it in the most menacing tone.
You are heroes. There was no one else up here. Isn't that right, Sergeant North?
And honestly, I was not expecting Muse to die this quickly in the series, so clearly there's another big bad for the final episodes, whether it's Vanessa, Fisk, or the task force itself. It's kind of crazy just to kill him this quickly. Then we're with BB and Daniel Blake. Daniel is like the smartest guy in the world. He threatens BB to not write about Daredevil showing up. So far, Fisk is keeping it all quiet. In the first episode, he told Matt he owed him a little bit because Matt protected Vanessa from Dex at the end of season 3's Netflix show. So on some level, by not outing Daredevil's identity, he's keeping that promise. Daniel threatening BB is just so unserious right now. Respectfully, I know I crap on Daniel. And just so you know, I'm crapping on Daniel, not Michael Gandolfini. I love my little sweet boy Michael Gandolfini, but I can't tell if this was supposed to be serious or more of what we saw at the beginning of him being a little dumb idiot.
And I'd be so stoked if you made the right call.
Even him playing with his pinky ring is so cartoonishly mafia. Like, stop it, stop it. I'm gonna choke myself. Also, BB, don't take Daniel's threats. Slap him, hit him. Girl, stand up for your rights. Heather wakes up and says that she killed Muse, and Matt instantly says you didn't have a choice and then covers it up when she asks how he knows. She mentions how someone else was there, referring to Daredevil, and says, I think he said my name. So yeah, she's starting to connect the dots, or she will inevitably. The cops hold a press conference and hold up the Muse mask, telling the public they've got him, and Fisk makes a super weird face. I hate this smiling face. Don't Go Please Stay begins playing by the Crying Shames, a song begging the love of your life not to leave you again. This works for Fisk and Vanessa because after the public cheers to Fisk for catching Muse, it means more reason for him to pull further away from Vanessa and into his work. The relationship is actively straining. And Vanessa texts Luca 32 Wither Street, he's alone, and so you don't have to, I called the number up above and it went nowhere. We're at Bamonte's? It's a restaurant, which is a real restaurant in Brooklyn, and the address is indeed 32 Wither Street, and it's the oldest Italian restaurant in Brooklyn. If you remember, on Vanessa and Wilson's first date, he took her to an old Italian restaurant and had basically rented out the whole place unbeknownst to her. So obviously, he still prefers Italian and dining alone. Vanessa, Buck, and Wilson set up Luca, and I know we could see it as the other way around. Maybe Vanessa did try to actively kill Fisk, but this is what she loves, and I don't think it was an accident. I think this was a setup. This reads like the inversion of the comic common scene in the mafia media where the mob boss is killed at dinner. We've seen a similar scene in The Godfather, The Mobsters, and arguably by the ending of The Sopranos. With his black suit and a private upscale location, Fisk looks like he's fully reconnected with his crime boss persona after beating the crap out of Adam last episode, and he's ready to just shoot some dudes again. We close out with Please Stay. Though it could sum up Vanessa and Fisk, it also definitely sets up Heather and Matt, because Matt is continuously lying to Heather, who inevitably will pull away if it keeps going on. Comment down below your thoughts on episode 7. That's my breakdown. This episode was a little bit of a roller coaster. I don't know how I feel about it completely, but I did like the Muse. Follow me at Lulu_Clemons. Subscribe to all 3 channels in the New Rockstars Network for breakdowns and news coverage of everything you love. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later.